Hey folks, welcome back to the Make It Weird Workshop. I'm Sam, and today somebody's about to catch a beatdown with this shovel. But, safely. Today on Make It Weird. Okay, so today we're going to be making a stunt-safe shovel. A buddy of mine recently reached out to me. He's working on a low-budget project, and they have a scene where an actor gets clocked in the head with a shovel. Obviously, they can't use a real shovel for that scene. We don't beat actors with shovels yet.
Warning. We interrupt this broadcast to state that the Make It Weird Workshop, its affiliates, and team members do not endorse impacting of heavy large objects into actors' heads or other body parts for any reason. We now resume our program.
So he reached out to me to ask if I could make a fake shovel that is lightweight, that looks like this shovel, and is durable enough to make it through the scene, to hit somebody with it and not fall apart. So that's what we're going to be working on today. This is a pretty straightforward, pretty easy build, so feel free to follow along at home, or use some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about today and, make your own stunt-safe props and weapons for your own projects. Either way. So, what do you say? Why don't we dig in? Did you hear what I said? Dad jokes. Dad jokes. So most of the stuff that we're going to be using for this project are things that you can pick up at your local hardware store or your local art supply store. A lot of this stuff is stuff you probably already have lying around your house. The first thing that we're going to need, and probably the most important thing that we'll need, is a real shovel. This will be your actual prop for your scene. The only time you're going to use the stunt shovel is when you're shooting the stunt. The rest of the time you'll use a real shovel. In addition to our real shovel, you are also going to need a rotary tool, a heat gun, scissors and other various knives and cutting implements. I like to use some clamps. They're very helpful, but they're not necessary. You're going to need contact cement, which is really stinky. You're going to want to make sure that you are working with it in a well-ventilated area. You're going to need a black marker as well as a silver marker. I like to have the silver marker for when I'm working on a darker material, and a black marker doesn't show up as well. You're going to need a ruler or a speed square or some sort of straight edge that will help you when you're cutting. You're going to need scrap plastic. Now, I'm using Worbla for this project. Worbla is a thermoreactive plastic, which means when you hit it with a heat gun, it will warp and change its shape. It's made to do that. I just happen to have some scrap Worbla lying around. If you don't have Worbla, that's not a big deal. You can do the same thing that I'm going to be doing with it using scrap plastic from around your house. Maybe you've got the lid off of an old busted up storage container. Maybe you can cut out some plastic from a milk jug or a laundry detergent bottle. There's really no wrong material when you need scrap plastic. There is always plastic around. You're going to need craft foam. Now, this is a EVA foam. You can get it at any art supply store, and usually pretty cheap. I think these sheets were like $1 a piece. You're going to need Plastidip as well as spray paint to match the color and the sheen of our hero prop. And we're going to need a scrap piece of PVC. This is a piece of PVC pipe that was left over from a previous project. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark it where the neck of the shovel head meets the head itself, so that I can cut into the section of it that's on the shovel head. But first, I'm going to remove the shovel head from the handle so that I don't knock my camera over. I use my Dremel tool to cut the lines I made in my PVC. Next, I use my heat gun to heat up the PVC so that it's soft enough to slide down over the handle of my shovel. Next, I use a scrap piece of wooden dowel and slide it into my PVC. That just gives it a structure that I can use while I'm heating it with my heat gun. I continue to heat and shape the PVC until I'm able to recreate the bend of my hero shovel, like so. Once I've matched the bend, I then use my Dremel tool to continue to shape the PVC core. Next, I trace my hero shovel head onto Worbla. When I cut my Worbla out, I end up cutting it a little smaller than the tracing so that it's completely covered by the EVA foam. I clamp my Worbla to my hero shovel and then use my heat gun to change its shape to match. Worbla is a thermoreactive plastic, so when you heat it up, it'll bend and conform to whatever you have it on top of. So in this case, if I put it on top of my shovel and hit it with a heat gun, it'll kind of take the same shape as the shovel. If you heat it up too much, Worbla will actually turn into almost a clay, like a putty. But it gets really, really hot, so you want to be careful with it. After that, I use contact cement to glue my PVC to my Worbla, and then take a scrap piece of Worbla and stick that to the other side. Worbla will stick to Worbla, so if you heat it up, you can almost create a paste and kind of smear it into place like a clay. But you have to be careful not to heat it too much, because it'll distort and lose its shape. I like to use a little wooden tool to kind of mash it in and shape it and keep messing around with it until you're eventually going to end up with a nice internal structure for your stunt-safe shovel. It's a strong plastic core that should make it through production. Next, you want to trace your shovel head onto your EVA foam and cut it away from you using a utility knife. I use contact cement to attach my EVA foam to my internal core, and then take a piece of scrap foam and wrap that around the handle. You know, there's something to the idea of an object that looks like something else in motion being identical to that other thing, or being able to create the illusion that it is something else. A stunt-safe shovel doesn't look just like a real shovel, but in motion, you can't tell the difference. And I think that, like, there's a lesson in that. In life, anytime like I've felt imposter syndrome or anxiety that I'm not as good of an artist, or I'm not as good of a writer, or I'm not a whatever it is, if I can just take the first step as though I am that thing, usually by the time I'm finished with whatever I'm doing, you can't really tell the difference between the two. And I think that's kind of the thing, is that trying to trick somebody else into thinking that you are what you claim to be isn't nearly as difficult as trying to trick yourself when you don't believe that you are what you claim to be. And so just taking the step forward, presenting yourself as being an artist, presenting yourself as being whatever it is that you're aspiring to be, and then moving forward as though you are that, usually will get you where you're trying to go. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, enough words of wisdom. We're making a shovel. So after I use my Dremel tool to clean up the edges of my stunt-safe shovel, then it'll be ready to hit it with a coat of Plastidip. Plastidip's gonna help seal everything up so that it's ready to take some spray paint. So I'm using an enamel automotive spray paint that's got a really nice shiny finish to it. It's going to make the stunt-safe shovel look almost identical to a real shovel, at least 90%, which again is all we're going for.
There you have it, folks. A stunt-safe shovel that will take a whooping and keep on scooping.
Dad jokes!
Terribly sorry about that. It's a compulsion. The dad jokes, when you become a father, the dad jokes just sort of arrive. You know, it's almost like a second puberty for men, when we all of a sudden just find ourselves saying really, really ridiculous, stupid, corny jokes, and we know we're doing it, and we can't help it. I'll try to do better. At any rate, this is a nice, durable, strong shovel that will make it through this shoot and looks close enough to its original that on screen, in motion, you won't be able to tell the difference. Hopefully you've picked up some good stuff today, things that you can use for your own builds. If not, well, we'll do better next time. Either way, I've had fun teaching you how I make a stunt-safe shovel, and so until next time, make it cheap, make it awesome, and make it weird.